Greetings, mortals. It is I, Luther, here with another episode of Tapes of the Lost. Tonight we turn the lights down low. Not for mood, but for safety. You see, in the hills of Hollywood, stories don't just entertain. Some survive, some infect, and some were never meant to be heard. These are the legends buried under spotlights, and the deeper you dig, the colder it gets.
It began with a single shot, not on film, but through the skull of George Reeves, the man who first donned the cape on television in the 1950s. He was found dead in his bedroom, gun beside him, single wound to the head. Police called it a suicide, but those close to him didn't believe it. The angle was wrong. No fingerprints on the weapon. Multiple bullet holes in the room. Some whispered it was a Hollywood hit. Others said it was revenge. But a third theory began to grow. The curse had begun. Superman, the ultimate symbol of hope, had taken his first victim. Then came Christopher Reeve, the man who became the definitive Superman for a generation. Charismatic, athletic, the perfect embodiment of the character, until 1995. When he was thrown from a horse and paralyzed from the neck down. A freak accident, but the media didn't see it that way. They called it the curse of Superman. Then Margot Kidder, who played Lois Lane, suffered a brutal mental breakdown. Found wandering the streets, paranoid and disoriented. Her health declined until her death in 2018, officially ruled a suicide by drug and alcohol overdose. And it didn't stop there. Lee Quigley, the infant who played baby Superman in 1978, died of solvent abuse at just 14. Richard Pryor, who played Gus Gorman in Superman 3, developed multiple sclerosis and died after years of illness and addiction. Henry Cavill, while alive and successful, has spoken publicly about the mental toll of the role and was unceremoniously dropped from the franchise with no real explanation. The theory goes like this: Superman isn't just a role. It's a weight, an impossible ideal, a burden of perfection. And those who wear the cape, on screen or in voice, are touched by something they can't fully control. Some believe the curse dates back to Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, Superman's creators. They sold the rights to the character for just $130. And spent the rest of their lives fighting to be recognized and paid. Some say their bitterness became a spiritual stain, marking the legacy of the character. Others believe the curse is cinematic, tied to how Hollywood rewrote the character, bending his purity for profit. Whatever the origin, the pattern is undeniable. Hope, tragedy, legacy, loss, all wrapped in red and blue. And somewhere in Hollywood, a cape still hangs, waiting for the next actor to put it on. They're here. That whisper launched one of the most iconic horror franchises of all time. But what happened behind the scenes of Poltergeist became a story far more terrifying than anything in the script. It wasn't just a curse, it was a death roll. Start with Heather O'Rourke. She was the angelic face of the franchise. Platinum blonde, porcelain skin, eerie stillness. Cast at just 5 years old, she became the heart of Poltergeist and the most tragic figure in its legacy. On January 31st, 1988, Heather collapsed. She was rushed to the hospital in cardiac arrest. By the end of the day, she was dead. The cause: septic shock from an undiagnosed bowel obstruction. She was 12 years old. But Heather wasn't the first. Dominique Dunne, who played her older sister in the original film, was murdered just months after the movie's release. Her ex-boyfriend strangled her in the driveway of her Hollywood home. She was 22. And it didn't stop there. Julian Beck, who played the terrifying Reverend Kane in Poltergeist 2, died of stomach cancer during post-production. Will Sampson, the Native American actor and actual shaman who appeared in the sequel, died a year later after a heart-lung transplant. So much death, so quickly. People started asking, what the hell was going on? And then came the bones. One of the film's most iconic scenes, actress JoBeth Williams falls into a pool of corpses. What she didn't know during filming? Those weren't props. They were real human skeletons. Why? Because real skeletons were cheaper than making fake ones. This was confirmed by crew members. The scene was shot with minimal explanation. No one on set was warned, and the energy shifted. JoBeth claimed she'd return home from filming to find all the pictures in her house tilted, no matter how often she fixed them. Other cast and crew spoke of on-set accidents, eerie malfunctions, and a constant sense of being watched. Was it coincidence? Bad luck? Or did something follow the production home? When Poltergeist III was released after Heather's death, her ghost was not a metaphor. It was in every frame. The film felt like a requiem, a goodbye to a child who died before she understood why. And the whispers got louder. Was it the bones, the content, the disrespect to something old and buried? No one knows. But Poltergeist isn't remembered for its scares anymore. It's remembered for its shadow. And the question that still haunts Hollywood: what was invited when the cameras started rolling? In 1996, New Line Cinema released The Island of Dr. Moreau, a loose adaptation of H.G. Wells' tale about a mad scientist creating human-animal hybrids. It should have been just another weird sci-fi flick. Instead, it became one of the most cursed productions in Hollywood history. At the center of it, Marlon Brando. By then, Brando was more myth than man. Reclusive, eccentric, brilliant, but completely unmanageable. He arrived on set days late, refused to memorize lines, demanded wardrobe changes mid-scene, and often wore a bucket on his head in protest of the heat. He insisted his character wear white makeup to reflect the sun, he claimed. Then he requested an ice bucket on his head and had an earpiece feed him lines. That earpiece? It would sometimes pick up police radio. He'd start responding in character to 911 calls. But the chaos didn't start with Brando. The film's original director, Richard Stanley, was fired 3 days into shooting, allegedly after clashing with the studio. He disappeared into the jungle for days. Some say he returned in disguise as a background creature hiding in plain sight. From there, the shoot spiraled. Animals bit actors, extras revolted, the cast fought. The location was swamped by monsoons. Some claim Brando never even saw the finished script. But beneath the madness, a rumor grew. Crew members began whispering about the Brando tape. Footage that was never released, not part of any behind-the-scenes feature. Allegedly shot during an unscripted night on set. Brando stayed behind with a skeleton crew, some of the actors in full costume. The next morning, people said the camera team was pale, visibly shaken. And that footage from that night was immediately locked away by producers. No one's ever confirmed what's on it. Some say it was just a breakdown. Others say something was filmed that shouldn't have been. Ritualistic, unscripted, and possibly violent. A few crew members claim Brando went into a trance-like state, began chanting in a made-up language, and ordered the actors to become the beast. It was never confirmed. But even decades later, interviews with surviving cast and crew refused to speak in detail about what happened those nights. The footage is rumored to have been archived under a false label in New Line's vaults. Some say it's gone, others say it's still there, sitting on a reel marked simply "Do Not View." Brandon Lee was on the edge of greatness. The son of martial arts legend Bruce Lee, Brandon had finally carved a path of his own. After years of minor roles and pressure to live up to his father's name, he landed the lead in The Crow, a dark revenge fantasy about a man who rises from the dead. It was poetic, gothic, perfect casting, and it would be the last role he ever played. On March 31st, 1993, during a late-night shoot in Wilmington, North Carolina, Brandon was filming a scene where his character is shot in a doorway. A blank-firing revolver was aimed at him. The cue was simple: fire, fall, cut. But when the director yelled cut, Brandon didn't move. At first, they thought he was acting. Then they saw the blood. He was rushed to the hospital. 6 hours of surgery, internal bleeding, multiple organs torn apart. Brandon Lee never regained consciousness. He was 28. The official cause? A tragic prop gun mishap. But the specifics are where the legend and the suspicion begins. Earlier in the shoot, the gun had been used for close-up shots with dummy cartridges. These are real-looking bullets, without powder or primer. But one had a live primer, which caused the bullet to become lodged in the barrel. Later, the gun was loaded with blanks, harmless on their own, but with enough explosive force to launch that stuck bullet like a real round. A perfect storm. A 1 in a million accident. Or was it? Because here's what doesn't sit right. The armorer had walked off set days before the incident over safety concerns. The props team was inexperienced, allegedly cutting corners under budget pressure, and no one ever explained why a real bullet was anywhere near the set. Then there's the footage. Yes, the fatal shot was filmed, and it was immediately confiscated by police. To this day, that footage has never been released. Add to that the eerie legacy. Bruce Lee died under mysterious circumstances at just 32. A sudden cerebral edema. No drugs, no trauma. Just death. Brandon, also in his 20s, also on the brink of superstardom, also died while filming a movie about death and resurrection. In The Crow, his character is shot and returns from the grave. Life imitated art, or something darker imitated both. Was it coincidence, incompetence, or a curse passed down, unfinished? The only thing certain is this: Brandon Lee should have lived, but the camera kept rolling. The gun was loaded, and the son of Bruce Lee never left the set alive. It's one of the most persistent and disturbing rumors in Hollywood history. A film. Real death. Captured on camera, not for art, not for evidence, but for pleasure. A snuff film. The term originated in the 1970s, referring to a supposed genre of underground movies where real people were murdered on camera. Most dismissed it as urban legend, a moral panic. No proof, no tape. But there's one story that refuses to die. The setting, Hollywood, mid-20th century. Whispers began circulating about a producer. Wealthy, connected, known for throwing lavish, depraved parties in the hills. Events so secretive they were invitation only, with security at the gates and no press ever allowed. The man's name has never been confirmed, but among insiders, one story kept emerging. At one of these parties, a film was screened. Not a work print, not a reel of footage. A tape, black and white, grainy, but real. It showed a woman, bound, terrified. She wasn't acting. She tries to speak, then screams. There's no cut, no special effects, just silence and blood. Attendees were horrified. Some thought it was an elaborate stunt, but the producer, they say, just smiled. When the lights came up, he reportedly said, "That's real. You just saw a masterpiece." The guests were told never to speak of it. Some left, others stayed. The legend exploded. For years, that reel became known only as the film. Rumors claimed it was hidden in a locked vault, Studio C, somewhere on the backlot of a now defunct production company. When the studio changed hands in the 1990s, the vault was reportedly cleaned out, but the film was never found. Then, in 2003, a retired projectionist came forward anonymously. He claimed to have seen the footage back in the 70s, twice. Once at the original screening, once when asked to make a copy. He said he refused. That night, his tires were slashed. He moved cities within a week. He described the film frame for frame, the woman's face, the moment of death, the laughter in the background. To this day, no one has proven the film exists. No copy has surfaced, but neither has it been disproven. Because here's the thing. Hollywood has always known how to hide things, especially things that bleed. In the early 1930s, Paul McCullough was half of a beloved comedy duo, Clark and McCullough, fast-talking vaudeville stars with physical gags and fast wit. McCullough was the straight man, dry, restrained, and quietly brilliant. But then, something snapped. In 1936, after checking into a sanitarium for what was described as nervous exhaustion, Paul McCullough seemed to vanish. When he checked out months later, friends said he was different. He didn't speak the same way. His jokes didn't land. His entire rhythm had shifted. His comedy partner, Bobby Clark, allegedly confided to friends, "He's not Paul, he just isn't." Then, 3 months later, Paul walked into a barbershop. Quiet, calm. He asked for a shave. As the barber stepped away, he slit his own throat with the razor. He bled out before help could arrive. The police ruled it a suicide. But the story doesn't end there. Over the years, film historians noticed something strange in Clark and McCullough's later reels. In the last few short films, shot after Paul's return from the sanitarium, his voice is deeper, his face slightly broader, his expressions off. One researcher claimed to have run facial recognition analysis comparing early and late-stage films. The conclusion? The man post-sanitarium wasn't the same. Of course, this was dismissed. Preposterous. Conspiracy. But then came the theory. Project Doppel, a rumored secret program in the early 20th century, supposedly run by powerful studios and private intelligence firms, designed to test identity manipulation for film and propaganda. Some say McCullough was the first test. Others say he simply cracked under pressure. But one thing is documented. After Paul's death, Bobby Clark never performed with another partner. He reportedly told his agent, "I already lost him once, I'm not losing him again." No one can prove a switch happened. But those who knew Paul said they felt it. And in a town built on performance, maybe the scariest story is this. What if the man on camera wasn't the man at all?
In Hollywood, the lies are scripted, the deaths are covered, the reels are edited. But some stories, some legends, they stick around like old film, cracked, flickering but never quite gone. And the deeper you look, the darker the frame. Like, subscribe, and be careful what you believe.